We certainly do. So, yeah, good question, though. Very good. Very, very good. Jay's over there going, a hay with a dog-esh in it? What are we talking? No.
I figured we'll get see.
All righty. Who does not have a mouthful of food that would like to take the first three here? Or do I have to pick a victim? Can you tell you what, Poppy, can you pronounce the first one? Oh, okay. Do you want to try? That's a B. So it's B. And this is a S, not a sh, but a S. B. Basar. Roll your R like you do in your Spanish class. Basar. Good job. Good job. Do you know what a basar is? It's stuck all over your body.
Last week.
That's right. That's right. Very good. Very good. All right. Daisy, I'm going to pick on you. Give me these three right here. Nope, that's a Gimel. Thank you. I had Dogesh in my head. I was like, Gogesh? I'm tired.
Yeah.
This is a F sound.
Yeah.
Geffen. Geffen. And what's a Geffen? It's a vine. Good job. All right. How about this one? Put it together. Hema. Put the accent here. Hema. And what's this one down here? Perfect. And what's a hema or a hem? It is not them feminine. When you have an eem ending on a word, masculine, plural, but think masculine, masculine. So it'd be them, masculine. All right, since you're doing so good, give me this one. That's a noon, hey, henna, or hen, like a chicken, a hen that's laying an egg. So hens are always female. Hems are like the hymns. They're always male. All right. So that's them, feminine. All right. So basar, gefen, hema, hen, hem, henna, hen, and zakar, which is to remember. If you'd like a way to remember zakar, think of Zechariah, who was the priest in the day of Jesus when Jesus was coming. Zechariah. His name is Yahweh remembers. So Zechariah. He remembers. Or he remembered. Okay. Sometimes it's easy if you can align it to a name. It helps you. Helps you, Zechar. All right. Let's see, Steve. Why don't you give me this one up here? This is a het, the haf sound.
Yeah, that's in chat.
Hata. Yep. And what is a hata? It is. It is to sin or to offend. Why don't you go ahead and read this next one for me here too? Yatav. Yep. How do we know about this one being related to something good?
Oh,
Tove, that's right here. That root right there. Exactly. Perfect. All right. Let's see. Robin, go ahead and give me this next one here. Coast, and what's a coast? It is a cup. That's right. Coaster. I actually didn't give that one. Somebody else gave that hint. No, I didn't give the coaster hint. But that's a great hint. I wish I'd remembered that. It took me a while to learn that word. That's a great one. All right, Robin, you did so good. Give me the next one here. Lemor. What's a lemor? Saying or to say. And what's the 3 root letters we're going to recognize in lemor that we want to pay attention to? Amar. That's right. Amar. Those are the 3 we're going to watch. Brent, what is the right time according to the artist? So that's lie, la. Lie, la. It's a good way to remember this diphthong of a patach and yod is I, Lila. And what's Lila? Night. That's right.
Vowel in our vowel chart? Yeah.
Possibly not. I don't know there was. The Kamatz yod was there, but the patach yod I don't think is. So, but it's an A vowel. Treat it the same way. Yep. Excellent. Very nice.
I mean, an I vowel.
No, the patach being the A vowel.
I just said Lila.
Lila. This forms what's called diphthong, which it takes the I sound. Lie. This combination specifically produces I.
And that wasn't.
No. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. No, it appears not very often.
Kind of makes sense. There's like, yeah, please. I.
Mm-hmm.
It just makes.
I. Yep. So good question though. Very good. All righty. Next group. Let's see. Steve, have you read? Oh, you did already. All right, we're gonna pick on Wayne then. No problem. Le Mans. Very nice. And what's a Le Mans? Think of the Le Mans. What do they do right before they start the race?
Yeah.
They order them up, forsake of, or in order them. Yep. So this is let your syllable break be right here. So it's ma, dua.
Dua.
Madua. And what's a madua?
So flexible. Ma. He says, what?
It is why. It's exactly right. Madua. Madua. Something you can learn and then say to your wife, and she won't know what you're saying. Madua. Oh, excellent. Carol, I'm gonna give you the easy one.
Oh, Melech.
Melech. That's right. What about the next one? So this is mash. Mashke. Mashke. What's a mashke? It is a cupbearer. All right. And the prodigal son, you can give us the last one. Jay. Your syllable break is right here.
So. Oh,
Yeah. Mishte.
Mishte.
Yep. Mishte. And that's an easy one. It's a feast. All right. Interesting thing about these 2 words right here. Our roots that we're looking at are shaka and shata. Shaka in a verb form means usually comes in a verb form that causes to drink. So if you remember when the servant of Abraham went to Uncle Laban's house to find a wife for Isaac. And he said, if, the woman that comes out and the watering of the camels and all of that. Well, in that verb that's used there, it's shakah, it's she caused the camels to drink. Shateh is also take a drink. So they both have to do with drinking in a particular verb form. But when they show up in these noun forms and these mems right here, we'll learn about these in a few weeks. These mems are telling us they're nouns. They can sometimes be adjectives too. But interestingly enough, this one about causing to drink turns out to be a cupbearer. So if the action of drinking is turned into a noun, then it's somebody who brings you a drink, or it's a drink, cupbearer. Okay. But for some reason, the shatah, which also has to do with drinking, gets related to drinking in the form of a celebration. Well, a form of a celebration tends to be a group of sorts. And so every time you see feast in the Old Testament, it actually has the connotation of a feast of drinking in that scenario. Kind of interesting. Yeah, exactly. I like the feasting stuff. So anyway, that's just something to notice there, because when you'll eventually come across these nouns where you know them in different forms, meaning essentially the same thing, and they can get confusing because one is a cupbearer and one is a feast when it comes up. But I just thought I would share that with you. That's where some of the roots can get helpful and sometimes a little confusing as you go forward. All right, construct forms. We're almost getting rid of this slide, but the forms are, you're going to see tonight why they're really important to memorize. These absolute forms and these construct forms. And I've suggested to just get in the habit of remembering the forms using sus, using horse. It's an easy one to remember, right? So sus, a horse, susim, horses, masculine, susa, female horse, susot, female horses, mares. And then the construct, it's still sus. The form doesn't change for sus. It may change for other words. The vowels will shorten. But then suse, which would be male horses of or belonging to something. Susat, a female horse of, say, a king. Or susot, mares of something. So these forms over here are going to become important. If you can just get these three down, they will solve a host of other challenges to decode words as we go forward. And we're going to actually run into that tonight. Okay. I'm going to try to make your memorization as little as possible for the remaining things that we have to look at. And then I think the week ago that you were gone, or 2 weeks ago, we were talking about prepositions. So just a quick little reminder here. The bet preposition, always in front of a word, always attached to the word, never stands on its own. Means in, on, with, at, something like that. The lamed preposition, again, always attached to the front of the word, never alone, to or for. And the kaf preposition, again, always attached, never on its own, like, as, according to. And these are flexible. These prepositions are very, very flexible. As the language matured through time, this lamed, sometimes these bet and lamed prepositions were used almost like a definite article. In other words, you can't translate it without putting the definite article there. It doesn't make any sense. And so you can see the language shift over time. So just grant yourself a lot of flexibility with the prepositions, and kind of keep in mind bets are like bites, where you live, a house, and it's kind of where presence is. And lameds are kind of like possession. It's to something or for something. And kafs are more like a parallel, like the parallelisms, like, as, according to, something along those lines. If you can kind of keep that together, then it will give you some flexibility to pick the word.
Quick clarification for me, and I
Yep.
apologize. The schwa and then the dash, is that how you identify that it's actually?
So that question was asked 2 weeks ago, and I thought, yeah, I need to fix that slide. No, there is no dash.
There's no.
It's attached directly to the word. Yep. And we'll see a couple of examples of that, but you're correct. It's just the preposition. However, there is a bit of a thing that we learned as well. The preposition can also be blended with the definite article. Okay. So if you see any one of these characters with a schwa, you know you have just the preposition. But if you see these same characters with a patah and a dagesh, or essentially not a schwa under it, that was kind of what I was trying to get to on that lesson, then you know you have the definite article there. So it'd be to or in the or to the or like the, and it just kind of mashes it together. All right. So again, this is just some review on some of those things. And then we looked at the min preposition, I think last week. We looked at this briefly. Didn't spend a lot of time here. Min can come in two different forms. It means from, almost always means from, although occasionally they'll be a little fast and loose with the preposition sometimes. Almost always means from, so just always go that way first, which kind of location is what we're looking at. It can stand on its own, min sade, from a field, or they can mash it together. Mi sade. They mean the same thing, from a field. And you might ask, and this is where I think I saw Wayne's head go, or something like that.
Not again.
Where you practice that name? Where you might ask yourself, where did this noon go? Well, this noon goes right here into this dagesh to tell you something here disappeared, and it's the noon that disappeared here. And get used to that, because the noon oftentimes just drops out along with a number of other letters, but they always leave you a little hint that something's missing. So the mem, the hirik remain, the noon just assimilates into the scene in this case and moves on. So that's something just to kind of keep in mind as you come across. Now, you might say, how do I know difference between things? Well, so our vocabulary really plays a big role. If you know sade is a field, if you know your word, right, then you can immediately pick out that I've got something attached to the front of it. And so very quickly, you're going to think, okay, well, this form is clearly a noun. I know it's a field. The mem preposition, the mean preposition is the only thing that's going to make sense in this form to be in front of it. There's nothing else that's going to make any sense. So, so I know in the vocab is really, really important with that. Misade. That's how I would say it. But mean is hard to pronounce when you're reading quickly, so I usually end up saying min, and nobody ever corrects me on it when I'm reading in front of other professors, teachers. They're pretty flexible on the hirik sound. So misade, same thing. The good news about definite articles is they do not assimilate. So min hasade, from the field in this case, just turns to me hasade. So the definite article remains in here. It doesn't assimilate into the mem. It doesn't blend together. It stays there. So you just kind of have to work methodically through. But the only way this makes sense, again, is if you know your vocab. If you know sade is a field, then you can work back and say, hey, what are you doing here? And ma'am, what are you doing here? Well, from the field is how you would read that.
Okay, so we got the dagesh place, shin.
Okay. Yep.
You got final near.
So the great question, perfect question, because the rule here on the previous slide was the noon assimilates, right? there should be a noon right here. Sorry. There should be a noon right here that seems to have gone away on us. And we know that it would assimilate into here.
I see.
Well, here's the question. If a dagesh is supposed to be here, why can't there be
It's a
one
guttural.
there? It's a guttural. And it throws it down to the bottom. Yep. That's okay. That you were headed right in the same spot, and that's perfect. It's a great question. It's a good question. So, yep, it rejects the guttural, bounces back down, and that's what it says. All right. So you'll pick these more up as we read more, and we'll continue to read as we go through the class. And we'll just continue to point them out as we come across prepositions. And then you don't have to, I don't want you to feel like you have to really just absorb all the rules. Just be aware you've got some things that will pop up around some of that. All right. So I think I told Jay, I think I promised him we'd have an example. Now this is the same one we did last week. Okay. So we're going to keep it simple because we want to get to the new material tonight. That way you can seriously question why you ever started Hebrew. So I'm going to read it, and then let's pick out what we can decipher from here that we know. B'chodesh hashelishi letzeet b'nai Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim. Okay. So help me know what it is that we do know in here. Let's identify the things that we do know. So go ahead. Anyone who wants to start. Go ahead, Daisy. The Bet and Shawah. Right here? What do you think that is? It's not in this case because we don't have a word that is just a noon. We need a 3-letter root. So we could say Ben or Bain is a word we know, which is son. And this construct form, a, remember, suse? So bene would be sons, plural, of what? Go ahead and read that word for me, Daisy. So let me help you. Yis, Ra, Yisrael. So the B'nai Yisrael are the sons of Israel or the children of Israel. Okay. So this one is not a preposition. Kind of tricky, huh? But there is a bet preposition here. The first word right here. I was giving you a chance. Now here's a question. Is this definite or indefinite? Remember the rule. If there's a shawah, it's indefinite. If there's anything other than a shawah, it's definite. And we don't have a dagesh here. Why, Gary? It's a guttural. Exactly. So a chodesh is a month. That means it's the word month. So in the month, the third. So in the third month is how that one would go. In the third month. What else do we know about this verse? And anything you can pick out and point out to me?
Well, you got your
You've got a lamed, you bet. That absolutely is functioning as a preposition. It's actually a preposition in front of a verb in this case, but it is a preposition. And we're looking for min. The me'aretz, that's right. Exactly. Now, what was our form? It was a mem, a hirik, and a dagesh. So what happened here? There's no dagesh. And why not? It's a guttural. Rejects it, kicks it back out, drops it down here, gives you a serif. So what's in Eretz? Land. So this would be from land here, but it's attached to a particular land, the Mitzrayim, the land of Egypt. So from the land of Egypt is how that one would go. And Daisy, who went out from the land of Egypt? Exactly. Or children of Israel. Works. They'll use sons. They'll use a masculine form if they're talking about a group of mixed people, male and female. Okay. All right. So Letzet. That's okay.
That lead there is like the out part or something.
So the le there, so this is what's called an infinitive construct verb. You know an infinitive construct as a verb that starts with to run, to be, to smell, to whatever, to eat. So this form, this lamed in front of this verb in this form tells me it's an infinitive construct. So it would be in the third month, the sons of Israel were to go out from the land of Egypt. But that's kind of not smooth English. So you just read it as went out in that case. Throwing the to in there is almost unnecessary for it. But the lamed tells it is a preposition attached to a verb form. And we use that as a marker when we start to learn verbs. That's how we identify certain verb forms. But it is a preposition in this case. The rule in prepositions is very flexible. I think did I show, I don't remember if I showed you guys the preposition. Well, you know what? I'll show it to you when we get to it next week. I'll show you why you should never build theology on a preposition. It's a bad idea.
You talked about, when you were talking about.
Yes.
Ruling over
her.
Side.
It's bo. Yeah, is the word bo, the preposition and the pronominal suffix. And so, yeah, the preposition can take on so many different ones. Tends to be in or with are the most common, but the translators pick over, which is like 14th on the list. Well, you're kind of making a choice. It's in the context, but don't build your theology on a preposition. It may not hold up. All right, pronominal suffixes. So this is a repeat of last week, just a bit of a review. Daisy, without reading, I want you to look at me and tell me what a pronominal suffix is. No, don't look. I just saw you look over. It stands in place of a noun. That's right. It's a pronominal is a pronoun. Well, in Hebrew, we have pronouns. We haven't looked at them directly, but they're going to be in your vocab. I think next week you'll have some more. We learned two tonight. Hem and hen, they and they. Those are pronouns. Okay. We'll learn the other 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The other 6, I think, in next week's vocabulary. So there are pronouns in Hebrew, but what we're going to look at are pronominal suffixes. How do you can attach a pronoun to a word to indicate possession. And so there's a few terms that we want to keep in mind here as we come through that you'll begin to see for the rest of your life in Hebrew. One is first person, second person, third person, and whether it's singular or plural. And these are all the words that we use here in our language. Nothing unusual about that. So with that, we get a few other things that occur. Because Hebrew's gendered, we have to keep track of the gender within it as well. So we learn this term over here, this PGN, which is person, gender, number. So the person would be the number in front, third person, second person, first person. The gender is the one in the middle, masculine or feminine, F or M. And the number, singular or plural on the end of it. So you'll see these terms as you look things up later in your life as you're doing Hebrew on your own, which is hopefully why you're doing this, so that you'll be able to do this on your own. You'll see these terms in this way. You'll see person, gender, number all the time. And so you'll start to see me include that as we come through to learn some of these things. So keep that in mind. And here's what we looked at last week was how we can attach possession to a word like sus or horse. And so what we learned is the vav, the holem vav at the end of a word indicates his. It's a third masculine singular, his. But the form for sus is singular. So suso is his horse. It's fairly straightforward in that way. Susa with the dagesh, there's Brent's discussion early on. If it has the dagesh, you know it's a pronominal suffix. If it doesn't have one, it just means you have a mare. The word would be mare, but you throw this little dagesh in here and it's her horse. Now the horse is still masculine and singular, but it's her horse. Okay. And suseja is your horse, masculine singular. You're talking to one person. That's your horse. Okay. And it's one person, one horse, masculine. And if I'm talking to Carol over here, right, then it's suse, and that's your horse. Horse is still a male, but now I'm talking to you, feminine. Not all y'all. And if it's my horse, it's Susie. Male horse belongs to me. And first person are not gendered. So we call those C for common. That's the term you'll see. Common. Because I and our, not gendered. Okay. So that would be my horse, but my horse is still a male in this case. All right. So what we came out of last week is these endings, just these endings are the things you want to memorize. Just those. Those are singular pronominal suffixes. There's 5 of them. There are also 5 plural pronominal suffixes, and that's what we're going to look at tonight. But I'm going to throw something in here that hopefully won't be confusing. Making an attempt at trying to maybe put 2 things together for you and save you a lot of studying time. By the way, what we're going to cover tonight was covered over 40 weeks, a period of 40 weeks. They would drop these things in occasionally because they didn't think you were ready for it. And it wasn't until we got the last one that I looked at it all and I went, why didn't you just put these 2 things together? We could have done that in one class. But that was me. It's a little frustrating.
Weeks.
That too. 40 winks too. Exactly.
Sleep.
All right. So here's the deal. The key to pronominal suffixes are knowing your construct endings. Okay? Because if you know your constructs and you know your suffixes, you can make sense of any word. So those 3 construct endings, a, at, ot. If you know what those mean and you know your 10 pronominal suffixes, you can decode any word. Any word. And again, it was so frustrating when we finally get like way through B and I'm like, you could have just put this into 2 things. Anyway, they never do that. It's probably why they charge so much for their classes. They want to keep you in there, but I digress. Okay. Sus, which means horse. And ot, which has a different vowel, but just don't worry about that for a moment. It's still ot over here, right? And it's ot over here. So what is a susat? It's a mare of, right? Because it's construct. It's a mare of, and then I have my pronominal suffix over here, his or him. Mayor of his, mayor of him. That's literally what it means. Which in English, we would just simply say, what? His mayor. That's it. Yes, Poppy. You may ask a question. Yes, they do. So if you're still here in the fall, we'll actually look at some. Yeah. So sus plus a construct ending plus a pronominal suffix gives you the word, which you would see it as susato. Susato. So you have to know your word, but you'll know that because you all are studying your vocabulary, right? You have to know your word. But even if you don't know your word, you can kind of still unpack this like Christmas a little bit and go, well, I know an O ending is probably my pronominal suffix, third masculine singular. He, him, could be it, right? And I know, because Jeremy just made me review this for weeks on end, that the ot is a construct form ending of a word that means singular feminine. Down here in the feminine box, this is the masculine box, right? So I know that. So I know the sus is a mare because I'm in feminine singular. And it's his mare because it's a mare of, remember construct form is the of, his mare. If you can let this paradigm sort of sink into your mind, then essentially knowing these three endings and your 10 pronominal suffixes, like I said, you can decode every single noun and adjective form in the entire Hebrew Bible. You don't need to learn all the rules. You just need to know how to recognize the suffixes that are here. That's it. That's why I keep repeating. That's why I keep putting the construct slides up, because they're very, very important. All right. I'll pause here for a second for any questions or confusion that I created, or we can try some examples. Go ahead.
So this is all construct forms dealing with the masculine singular word, where it's like yes, whatever. Will that be the construct form on words?
Sometimes, because that addition of the vowel on the end changes the vowels preceding it. Exactly. It can even affect where the accent in the word is.
Because it seems like if you're talking anything other than masculine singular, always going to be construct form. If you're to say like whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but it's masculine singular, that may or may not be form.
Correct. Typically it is. You will almost always see some vowel change. The longer the word is,
It's like what his king, because you got Melech and
malchut.
you said that is different.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. So you'll see the change. You'll see the change in it. It's a great question. All right. Now that I think I have you sufficiently confused, let's try a few examples. Okay. So we can decode this a little bit, and I've left our chart up here. So this is masculine on this side. This is feminine on this row. Okay, just in case we get confused there. So we just looked at this one, Suso, right? His male horse, or a horse of him, is how you might take that. A horse of him, his male horse. Susato, we just did. What was it? His mare, or female horse, either way. Sometimes I like to do the female and male because I've said like a finger or a hand. Yod is a feminine word. And so if you'll see the feminine forms on a hand, if they're talking about a hand. So I usually do that, but we'll go with mare. I think by now we kind of follow that. So let's do this. What is a susav? Think of the hints in the table up here. Horses. Why would that one be female? So what I'm looking for, think back in the Masoret days where I don't have this dagesh or this baton. I have a yod, and in my construct form, which one has a yod? The masculine plural. So the hint is this masculine plural, yod, sitting right here. That tells me I'm in this one right here. So now I have horses, male horses of, and what's my common item is the vav, his. The vav is the his. I can't have a vowel here because I don't have two vowels in a row. That's not allowed. So I just have the vav. So susav, I can steal what I know about a construct ending. There's only one that has a yod in it. So I'm male horses. And for the pronominal suffix, I only have one that's just a vav, has a vav in it. And which one's that? Him. His. Don't worry, we'll be doing this for several weeks. So this would be his, male, horses, plural. Or his horses. Okay? Joining these two concepts together allows you to decode anything in there that's set up in a possessive way. This will actually apply to some degree to verbs too. What we're learning covers a lot of stuff. So go ahead. So the vav here is the same as the pronominal suffix o. So sus o, susato. And in this case, I can't have a vowel and a vowel. So the vav drops its holum, but the vav remains. And think back to when we were talking about how the Masoretes are adding all these things in to help you along the way. Without the marks, this would just be, you would have to know this is a vowel because there is no holum back in the old days. You just have to know it. And down here, you just have to know that it's functioning as a consonant because there's a vowel here. The yod indicates the vowel, the plural vowel in that case. So either way, the ending is a vav. That's what I kind of want you to pay attention to, is the vav ending is the singular, masculine singular, third person, 3ms, pronominal suffix, his, him, sometimes it, but let's go with his and him. So this is what I'm looking at for that. Okay. Yes. Come see me in a few years. All right. Does anybody want to take a stab at this one? Here, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna break it up just a little bit. Maybe give you a few hints. So here and here. And just think about the things you know. So what do we know about this first word? The horse. And it's in construct with something because we have an oat. Well, what do we know about oat? Feminine. Tavs are feminine. So it's a feminine, but what? Plural. So what's the word for feminine plural? Let's just go horses. would be mares. Okay. Mares. So we know susot, mares, and in construct, mares of what? Who did the mares belong to? Him. Him. All right. Yeah, mares.
Oh,
His mares. Mares of him. If you know your constructs and you pay attention to those, the yod will always be a plural masculine, and the oats and aughts will always be feminine. The oats and aughts, right? Memorizing that table will help you just, when you hear it, when you read it to yourself, you'll go, oh, aught. Okay, wait, that's feminine. And then you'll sit there and go, is the aught singular? Is the oat singular? Which one's singular? And you'll struggle to remember, but you'll eventually will. Because in the context, it won't make sense for one horse to do whatever is happening. Okay.
That's the wise thing. Yeah. Next to Bob.
Oh, the yod right over here? Because it's still giving the, thank you, that's a good thing. It's matching up to the plural here.
go. Has to also plural.
No, because the paradigm is of. The paradigm is off for a plural. If your noun is plural and your pronominal is singular, that yod is going to hang out there to tell you it's plural, even though you already know it's plural from the oat. I know it's a little bit of a doubling up there, but they're keeping the form in place to let you know. The other thing that's helpful about this is it's communicating to you. It's kind of pointing over to the vav, the ending vav, a bit. Otherwise, it can get a little confusing. But these forms are consistent. I can actually tell you that these don't change. Okay, these are pretty reliable. I say pretty reliable, which means in the Hebrew Bible they typically don't change. If there's one rule you learn, the rule is always going to be broken somewhere.
Those are comments, right?
Come on, yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
So we're
Susotaiv. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
But just because it's
Susotav. Comments. Yep. Susot. All right. Sufficiently confused?
Yes.
Excellent. Let's go further because we're going to keep talking. This is a little bit of introduction, and we're going to keep practicing this during the next few weeks. All right. So I'm just going to kind of dip your toe into more holy crap. Okay. So
What's that?
Susam. In fact, I'll just read them really quick. Susam, Susan, Sushem, Sushen, Susenu. Susenu.
Susay.
Susenu.
Susano.
Susenu.
Yeah.
Susenu. It kind of does, doesn't it? Yeah, it's a bummer if your name is Susan, right? So these are plural, and this is the other thing we're going to learn. There's 5 plural pronominal suffixes. So their horse, masculine. So it's a masculine horse, but it's their horse. So it belongs to a group, a male group.
And I assume that's related to that our vocabulary, that Hema and Pena.
You got it. The hem and the hen. Yes, exactly. Notice you picked up on the endings over there. So if you know your pronouns, hem, hen, then you can kind of see a little bit of a sort of a ring. The haze drop all the time, right? So Susam, Susan, Susehen, Susehen, Susenu. So their horse, the masculine horse, their horse. If you had got your girlfriends together and you had a horse, That'd be their horse. All you girls, what are you giggling down there? Suse hen, y'all's horse. Y'all men, horse. Suse hen, y'all's horse if it's a bunch of you women that got together with a horse. Suse new, it's our horse. Okay. And next week, vocab, you'll see some words in here for that will fill in some of the gaps on the pronouns, and you'll begin to see some similarities between them.
And then the your is kind of like the singular your, but instead of the final con, it's the regular con, have like their.
Did you notice that too, right? So that's one that many people will miss, is that let me go back a slide here. So these are coughs on the end. They're just the final form, right? These are coughs on the end, but they're not the final form. But you do exactly what Brent was saying. You put the mem and the noon, just like the mem here, masculine, noon here, feminine, mem, masculine, noon, feminine. And the new is just the our, first common plural for new. So I can say, if you want to say the word I in Hebrew, it's ani. Ani. And back over here, susi. Susi. They rhyme. And if I want to say the word we in Hebrew, it's anachnu. You're the new on the end, anachnu. And our horses susenu. And so they have these rhymes within them, so that when you start to learn the words, they have some similar sounds and characteristics to them. So we don't need to tear this apart tonight, because I'm going to show you 10 things I want you to concentrate on. Okay. Just 10. Well, you learned 5 last week, but there'll just be 5 new ones this week. All right. The key here is still the same. It's still the same in this case. Sus means what?
Or
And a susot is a what? A mare of. Susot is a mare of, belonging to. And I picked this one out, an anu. Well, that would be our. You don't know that yet. We just learned it. So mares of our. That's literally what the word means, but we would say in English, our mares. You could say mares of us, too.
Mayors of ours.
Or ours. Yeah.
so how come the word bottom doesn't have the
Because I forgot to type it in.
so it should have.
It should have you. He does that to me often, and I appreciate it. And then I'll leave the error in the slide, which I hope he thinks I'm just doing to sort of, poke at him. But it's truly just because I forgot to fix it. But thank you for that. Right. So, susotenu, our mares. It's a long word for our. Susotenu. There should be a yod right here. Susotenu. The accent would be on the top. Susotenu. Our mares. So again, you already know this part. You already know these constructs. If you know your word, you know your constructs, then all we have to learn are what these endings are. All we have to learn in this case. Okay? All right, we'll look at a couple really quick. These should be hopefully straightforward. I picked good ones. All righty. Would someone be brave enough to read? We've got a tough word in here. You see the first word? Well, there is something to that. That's correct. Yes, Pop. I tell you what, let's have you do the first word, maybe the first and second word. All right. Va. Ya. Vo. U. Vaya. Vo. Very close. Very good. And this one? So, ahi. Sorry. Ahe. Ahe. Poppy, do you remember what an ah is?
A ball.
A bowl? No, that's not a bowl. Does anybody remember what an ah is? What's an ah? A brother. And it has this ending over here. Do we recognize this ending? What is it? Anybody speak up? Brothers, what? It's in construct. Of. Brothers of who? Yosef. That's right. The brothers of Yosef. And what did they do? What's a bow? It's a verb. It's a verb.
Up, down.
Bow? Nope. Came. Exactly. Now, Robin, ever observant, did you recognize this? Oh, okay. So, Vayavohu ache Yosef. The brothers of Joseph came. Okay. We could just do it this way. Okay. What about this little guy?
It's preposition.
And would anybody like to take a stab at this word? You don't have to read it with a maquette. You got it. Yishtahavulo. But usually you see it as yishtahavu or yishhachata. And it is only in this form that we find this word, this verb. It's the only form. No other words take this verb form. And it is bow down and worship. Okay. So vayishtahavulo. Now here's a good one. There's a test. What did we learn, Robin? What is the O on the end of a word? His. And what's a lamed? To. So what do you think this means? To him.
I thought low was
Lo is no. But in this form, it's to him. Because there's nothing low is modifying.
wise.
So Robin
Considered.
gets extra credit right here. To him. Yes, you can have a pronominal suffix attached to a preposition. So if I were to say min or mo, from him. If I were to say bo, in him, with him, on him, whatever the context requires. All right. If I were to say co, like him. So you can attach those to any of those prepositions. Go ahead.
So
It is different. Kara would be like to kneel. Hishtahava is bow and worship. Yeah, it's the only form and the only verb ever used that way in all of Scripture. They still to this day don't exactly know what its origination was.
So is it the same for green?
Yes. Yep. All right. What's an off?
Neck.
A nose. That's right. A nose. So what's a afayim? Noses. This is a form we didn't look at. We would usually expect a hirik here and a yod here, but it seems a little different, doesn't it? All right. But you picked up its noses. You just knew it right away. The form's a little different. It's called a dual. It just means two. All right. But don't worry. I just don't ever worry about that. You see those eames, you know they're there. So they bowed down. I should have reversed this. Bowed down to him, and it's noses toward the audience, earth or ground. And how would we know it's toward?
I don't know. Word. Wow.
Yes. I'm going to give Gary some secret information right here, because I'm waiting for Brent to ask the question, and he's not asking it yet. This at the end. What is up with that? It's called a directional hey. Means towards. So if you get Mitzrayimia, means towards Egypt. So that little at the end where the makes no sense. If it's a place or direction, it's telling you it's towards that. Okay. So I love this. Their noses toward the ground. It's almost like our Bibles will read with their faces, bowed down to the ground.
Essentially a preposition suffix.
I'm sorry?
Is that a preposition that's always this?
Which one's that?
Yeah.
The at the end? No. It's literally a directional hey. It indicates towards.
I mean, so that's a preposition.
It is. Yeah, sorry. In that way, yes, it would be a type of preposition. Yep.
Toward.
Almost always, yes. Yep. Okay. So we saw a lo. Good job, Robin. We have the construct up here, brothers of Joseph. All right. So we just need to kind of remember these constructs. And here's how we can use a pronominal suffix. It can just be simply attached to a preposition. It can be attached to any word, even verbs. Three weeks. All right. What do we know about this? I tell you what, let's pick on a victim. We're going to go with Wayne. Wayne, take a stab at reading this for us.
Yard.
Perfect.
Yoma.
That's Yosef.
Yos.
Akav. Akav.
Yeah.
Perfect. Vaya kirem. Yep. All right. So, do you want to take a shot at what this might mean?
Means when he saw, he read.
When who saw? Joseph saw. Who did he see? How do we know it's his brothers? So we know Ach, his brother, right? We have a yod up over here that's telling me I'm probably a plural. And I have a pronominal suffix in the vav right here. Brothers of him. Brothers of him. Or we would say, Wayne,
When Joseph saw his brother.
his brothers. Yep. The his is this part right over here. The plural is the yod. And he recognized who? Where's the them in this word? The M at the end. Exactly. Nope, that's it. It gets assimilated up and over here, but you picked it up exactly right. The mem ending here, and you won't know this yet until we get into some verbs a bit, but this is a pronominal suffix attached to a verb. The rules remain the same. Doesn't matter the word. So Our verb here is vayachir, or vayakir, in I note is vayachir. Vayachir, which means he was made to recognize. Okay, it's a cause. Something caused him to recognize them, and it was their appearing before him. That's what caused him to recognize them. So this is actually two words right here. This is the verb, and this is the pronominal suffix we just saw, but it's a plural. And he recognized them. What's that?
Kind of 3 words.
Yeah, the and becomes a part of the verb form. So, all right. So let me type that in there so you have it filled up. And for Steve, who was supposed to remind me of this, I'll read the verse out. All right. Vayare Yosef et Echav vayakirem. Vayakirem. Okay. When Joseph saw his brothers, he recognized them. So these pronominal suffixes, when we've been reading, and I've, like in Torah, sometimes I'll circle a word and say him. I might highlight the vav or something else. That's what I've been doing, is to say this is where we know where those objects are. Okay, so here's the scary slide, and then we'll wrap up. Actually, there's 2 scary slides, but I put them in here. They're in Canvas, so you can download the PDFs and see them. And here's what you're going to need to pay attention to. Okay? So, hopefully we'll make this easy. What I have in boxes are the only things you need to memorize if you know your construct table. If you have this hardcore memorized, a, ot, ot, then what I have highlighted is all you need to know for singulars. That's it. O, ah, echa, ek, e, and there's a slight variation of I over here when you get to masculine plural endings for nouns. But essentially, just know there's a variable right there. Okay. These are the singular paradigm: his, her, your, my. For singular nouns. And for plural nouns, you see it's a slight change, but I just want you to notice this right here. Vav, hey, kaf, yod. Do you see how they're the same? And do you notice here for a plural noun, masculine, yod, just like you have here, yod. So if you can see how these combine, or let's look at feminine, ato, ata, ateha. What's the same thing here? Ot, just like ot. How about our feminines? Oat, just like oat. So if you have this table memorized and you know the order is your noun, your construct, pronominal suffix, that order will never change. It will always be in that. You'll never have a noun, pronominal suffix, and then a construct. It will never be that. The order I showed you is exactly the order it will always show up in. Okay? So if you can memorize this table and these endings, you should be able to assemble what you need to know about any word if it's singular. So all I want you to pay attention to are what's in the boxes right now. Okay? That's it. Looks complicated, but it doesn't have to be. Now, we looked at plurals tonight. They're y'alls, and ours. And so the only thing I want you to pay attention to are what's in the boxes. That's it. And if you know your vocabulary, hem, hen, then the and on should pay attention, should make sense. And same for the cops over here. We already learned those, but we've got M's and N's and the news. These are all, and you get a couple variations over here. But if you learned your vocabulary, hem and hen, then you'll know if I see hem, it means there. If I see hen, it means there, but it's plural. So these are the only things you need to pay attention to. Noun, construct, suffix, if there is one. And it will always be in that order. And if you can decipher, to me, you can decipher the suffix, the rest of it's going to be easy if you know your constructs. Does that make sense? Now, you don't need to, there's a lot in this tonight, but that's why I wanted to boil it down to say, you only need to pay attention to what's in the squares in these two charts. You can go to Canvas and grab them. And this is what you really need to hone in on. All right. Any questions about that? I'm sure you have a billion questions. So I was thinking next week, what we would do is, since I think Passover is we're gonna do some of that for next week. That's on Tuesday. But what I thought we would do for class is I'm going to go grab a selection of Passover verses, and we're just going to read off the slides, identify what we can, and kind of fill them in. So it'll just be kind of a reading night. We won't have to, and we'll just sort of review all of the stuff that we've learned today. That'll be next week for Hebrew class. Next Monday, we'll just do reading. And it'll be like a review. That way you won't have to feel like you've got to learn anything new. So, yes, Poppy. We're going to do some Passover stuff on Tuesday, yes. Well, here. Next Tuesday, here. You'll miss it. Yep. Okay. No, there's two different ones. Okay.
Mhm.
I can explain it when we get in the car. All right. All right. So which things are you going to pay attention to?
The ones in the box.
Very good. Best student in the room. No, I'm just kidding. All right. Just the things in the boxes. That's it. So far. Okay. Sufficiently convenient. That's only 10 things to learn. That's it. And you can, if you've learned your constructs and those 10, trust me, your life reading Hebrew will, that was a compression of like 10 weeks of teaching in one shot, because they try to teach these forms it's almost individually. And it's confusing because there are patterns we can pay attention to that make it a lot
The
easier.
final mem, I feel like always, it's like, if it's Susi, it's like, versus later said nothing. Yeah, but if it's like there versus over there, whatever, that also has like the mem in it, the final mem,
Yep.
And like when you have a mem in a word, it's like a male plural kind of
Yes.
like patterns like that.
Yep. And you'll also figure out that when you have a mem prefix of a certain form, it gives you a different sense. Well, like shata, you put a mishte on it and it becomes a cupbearer. So that's an occupation. So it's a job title. And so you can put mems in front of words and create occupational titles out of them. You can put mems in front of words like makom means a place. Kum is somewhere where you would rise up, something that's come up, and makom is a certain place. So you just change some of the forms, but the only way this works, you want to take a guess at what I'm going to say? The only way you can identify patterns is if you know your vocabulary. If you can pick out the word that we're talking about, you can solve the rest of the mystery. You can. And anyway, all right. I'll read these for you and then we'll get you out of here. Safar means to count or to recount or tell. You're going to start to see some of these words, call and PL. These are verb forms. Don't worry about those right now. They'll make sense to you, hopefully by summer. Won't be that long. Now, Safar is a different, interesting word because Safar is also the word for a scroll or a book. So recounting or retelling of something is there too. Oaf. Oaf is a bird or fowl. Tim Mackey would say they're sky flyers. Things that fly in the sky are oafs. Eights. That's the final form of the sade. We don't see that often unless we're talking about trees or wood. Eights. That's a flexible word. It can also mean a bush. It's just anything comprised of a wooden substance. Eights. Yes. Yes. Yeah. Excellent observation. Leave it to Robin to pick out the obvious that I never noticed. Thank you. No, it's perfect. That's panim, panim, face or presence. Now this would typically be faces, but go ahead. Punam, what is punam? Face. Yeah. Panim, punam. Yep.
Shade and put them.
Yes. So a leaf ne, because pan is our root word. Leaf ne is a word you'll see often, which means before or to the present, to the face of. So some prophets will be leaf ne to Adonai, means they are to the face of God. And mipne, from the face of God, means they are leaving his presence. So mipne, they're leaving from. Lifne, they are going to and from. Okay, lifne, mipne. Let's see, pakad. Pakad. To attend, to visit, to appoint. This is what you'll do if you go visit someone in the hospital. It's an act of pakad. You're attending to, visiting. You might appoint somebody to do it. Pakad. Patar means to interpret. This word's not very frequent in scripture. I'm not sure I think they put it in here for the story of Joseph because he interprets a dream. Patar. Pitron. Pitron is an interpretation. What's my root word? My root letters. Exactly. The pei, the tav, the resh. What are my root letters here? The pei, the tav, the resh. All we've done is change the form and added a bit of a suffix, which we'll learn about in a few weeks. One is a verb of interpretation. He interpreted. That's what this word literally means. He interpreted. Well, what did he interpret? What was the result of that? Well, it was a pitron. It was an interpretation. That's the noun form.
Isn't it also like what we just did, where it's like, wasn't that like that? Like, oh wait,
No, because here is something kind of like I was saying. The form for pronominal suffixes will always follow the root, the construct, the pronominal suffix. That form never changes. So as soon as you see something strange, like an own ending, you just know you're not dealing with that. You look at it and go, wait, what? Oh, it's an interpretation. Good times. We should know this one, a rosh. Head. Yep. Head or beginning. Yep. The harosh, the top, the head of a mountain, the top of it. Can I tell you, I learned this word 4.5 years ago, and the irony is, I still forget it. This will come up in my I review vocabulary every single day. This one popped up a month and a half ago. I looked at it and I'm like, shit, no, shit. What is this? Is this the dawn? Is this rising? What? And I'll hit it and it'll be like, forget. And I'm like, for 4.5 years, I have been going through that on this word. I cannot remember the word that means forget.
Well, that's why you forget.
Shahak. Oh, I cut it off. Yeah, okay. That might work. I might actually remember that now. So, it's so irritating. Shahak, to forget. He forgot. Zechariah, he remembered. Shahak, he forgot. Shalosh is 3. Just means the number 3. Shalosh. But what's a shaloshim? It's a 30. And what's a shilishi? It's a 3rd. What's my rule on numbers? We hate them. Just memorize the main ones. Know that number 1 and number 2 suck. They always change. They're weird forms, just like we see right here. Shnayim, Shnai. I mean, they change forms. The number 1, number 2 change forms all the time. And so just memorize the main number. It's the easiest thing to do.
Why would there be a masculine?
Because you might be talking about 2 hands, so you need the feminine form, or you might be talking about 2 masculine horses.
Is your masculine? Men of other numbers?
All of them. They all have a masculine form and a feminine form. Would you like to know the good news? The masculine forms all take ah at the end. Kamate. Shaloshim is the masculine form, even though Shalasha is the feminine.
Oh, yes.
Or is the masculine. It's an irregular. The numbers are irregular. They just they don't fit into the categories.
Shalasha is masculine.
Exactly. The kamatz hey on numbers,
and then this one we have here
is the feminine. It's a disaster. It's a disaster. This is why I say, if you want to read your English translations, be okay with Noah going 900 and some odd years. Just know the numbers have problems. They are hard to figure out. You want to say there's 3 million Israelites across in the desert? Okay, sure. Wait till you really spend some time in the Hebrew and you'll go, this is not making any sense. I can't figure out what it's actually talking about here. But nobody wants to admit that. So the numbers are maddening. It's good. Anyway. Shnayim and Shnai. Yeah. Or Shnei, whichever. Means 2. So these are the forms. Really, Shnei is the one you'll see the most often right here. But yeah, you'll figure it out when you get there. Yeah. Sharat means to serve or to minister. PL is a verb form. You'll know that in about 3 weeks. Nope, it's a verb form. PL. Shatayim or Shatayim and Shatai. That's the same as number 2, but it's a feminine form, just like you pointing out. So just memorize Shnai or Shnayim. Just stick with that. And then when you get you'll know when they're talking about 2 of something. There aren't that many 2 of somethings, 2 by 2. And it's about the only place it really shows up. So, all right, that's it for tonight. As I said, you can go back and look on the video or go into Canvas, grab the slides, they're in PDF, and learn those things in the boxes way back here. This one and that one. Those 2, just the things in the boxes I've highlighted. And then when we read next week, I'll try to pick some things out of the Passover story. We'll just read next Monday and try to break out the words and we'll translate it and kind of just review everything we've learned so there won't be anything new. next week. Fair enough? All right. Any questions? Sufficiently confused. All right.